Imagine an orchestra is about to play Max Bruch concerto for violin and orchestra, but there are only violins on the stage. Would they succeed in performing the masterpiece? Of course not. We are lacking the flutes and the trombones and the percussions on the stage to delve into the masterpiece of Max Bruch. Diversity is ontologically necessary for our lives. So today I invite you to look into the role that diversity plays organically in our social interaction, in the fabric of the market, and why people do not appreciate the beauty that we have, and why humanity is crazy about creating an artificial diversity and inclusion policies, and what we can suggest as opposition to this new socialist trend. So, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is there a place for it naturally by the design of the creator around us, or must it be performed by a decree? St. Thomas Aquinas provides us a fundamental outlook explaining why God, who is perfect and all-powerful, would create the world so filled with diversities, incompleteness, and the response is that no one creature can present all the perfection on this earth, and therefore we each have a composition of unique qualities, but also we lack other unique qualities which other people possess. And therefore we are made for cooperation. And Aquinas even compares human beings with animals, and he has very interesting discourse explaining that while lions have horns, and bulls have horns, and birds have wings, human beings lack these organs, but human beings have hands and reason, which explains that we are made not for combat, but for cooperation. And Austrian Economic School, of course, explains us so well the role of the diversity in the fabric of the market exchange. The exchange only happens because we are different. Only when two different persons meet with the different capacities and different needs, they can exchange what they possess. And the subjective value which the world does not understand is based exactly on our diversity. And the division of labor globally is also based precisely on our diversity. So when I think of the world which is so crazy of creating an artificial policy of equality and inclusion, I wonder why these people do not see the miracle which happens in every exchange, because value is created by the very act of exchange. It is not only by hard toil that we create value, not only when we serve each other that value is created. Value is created because we trade things which we value differently. So when we exchange, the miracle of value is present. But the world does not see this miracle, and so many people believe that a market exchange is a zero-sum game. what a tragedy. These people believe that every time people meet on the market, exchange their labor, exchange cars for a piano or whatever, one party wins at the expense of the other. This would be the world of exploitation and abuse, indeed. But we know that it is not like that. But it also explains why these people who do not understand this miracle, why they are so drawn to create an artificial world where all those natural aims would be achieved by a decree. I study the phenomenon of scarcity and lack. In German, my friends still discuss whether it's Mangel or Knappheit for more than a decade. And my hypothesis was that humanity does not understand the role of something which is imperfect, incomplete, insufficient, in the most universal sense, in the most universal way. That humanity does not understand this role and therefore despise market, despise money, despise economic exchange, and are so much drawn to socialist solutions. We united a group of philosophers, anthropologists, sociologists, theologians, different disciplines, and we discovered that lack, insufficiency, incompleteness, and imperfection is third principle, third element which explains why things become, why things come to become, and why things change. And it is manifested everywhere, as Michael already started to speak about the organic world, about the world of physics. It's everywhere in the structure of being. It is present in time, space. We may speak about cosmos. Of course, it is present everywhere in the material things. And in an economic, we know it as a scarcity of resources. So, my friends, economic scarcity is just a reflection of the most universal phenomena which surrounds us absolutely everywhere. But in economic field, scarcity could not hide itself. It must be manifested. Money appear to measure resources which are scarce, to give value for things in order for them to be able to be exchanged. So this is why economy is sometimes called a dismal science, because in economy, the presence of imperfection and insufficiency is not hidden, as it is hidden in other fields of our life. So we lack bread, we lack knowledge, we lack skills to do things that we aspire to do, we lack friends, and so we find friends, we lack all love. This is the most scarce resource on earth, and we lack beauty, quality, morality. So everything around us is not sufficient, is not completed. But this is most wonderful news, because if the world was already perfect and completed, any change would mean only a damage to this world. But we live, we are changing, we are behaving, we are taking action, so we are open to advancement. And the world is open to our completion. We are vicars on earth. The world is open to completion, to perfection. And this is the most liberating news which the socialist part of humanity is missing. And that's why they aspire to create a perfect world. They aspire to create a world without any scarcities, be they material scarcities or moral scarcities. Of course, when we exchange on the market, not every time we include everyone. Of course, we make choices. and sometimes acting on the market wounds. So it explains that to accept what we have with all its beauty, but also with all its imperfection, is really an art to be in love with the life as it is. And if you are not in love with life as it is, of course you start dreaming of a perfect world, which could be, of course, implemented by a decision of the state, by the decision of the government, by a policy, and by a decree. So, universal basic income comes as the marginal expression of socialism in a new disguise. It is a promise to give everyone basic sustenance, which means everyone will have a fridge full of food, a roof above the head, security, and the belief that when people are given all that they need, the world will be secure and perfect. Universal basic income is a marginal expression of diversity and inclusion policy because it aspires to include everyone, not just in a board or in academic community, but to include everyone into the material provision as an alternative to the market, as an alternative to the place where we all are united. We are all serving each other, which is sometimes hard. I need to find out my vocation. I need to find out how best I can serve the society. I always have to advance, to learn new skills. I need efforts. I need patience. And if you are given a promise that you will get all the basic sustenance without effort, this is the biggest damage we do, especially to a younger generation. People who are already fulfilled would not be exposed to this risk so much. But the younger people, when they learn at school, at debates, all the rights that they have to get all basic provision without any need to work or to study, they come on the labor market completely confused. They find the real world as unjust world because they learn that they have the right to get everything just because they appear in this world. So for these people, life is really difficult. And universal basic income as a promise, of course, it can never be introduced as a real policy. And we at the Lithuanian Free Market Institute, we study what impact would it have on a human nature, even if economically, let's suppose it would be possible. As a monetary economist, I understand that this is not possible because it would turn money from the sign of scarcity, as money is, into a sign of plenitude, sign of abundance. So it is a complete contradiction to the very essence of economic background of our society. So even if economically it would be possible, we study what would be the impact on human nature. And of course, the biggest danger is that the promise to get basic sustenance destroys social network. It destroys social dependence. The basic promise is that you will not be dependent on your parents, on your children, on your employer. We will all be independent from each other, but we will all become dependent on the state. All become dependent on the state. We will be like happy animals fed by the state, happy plants, taken care by the state. But since we know from our study that a human being is never satisfied, being insatisfied is a part of human nature. That's why we have aims. So humanity would never be satisfied with this, and they would revolt. They would request more and more. So eventually this is a biggest danger to democracy, because people who are fed by the government would always request more, and eventually the system would devour itself. So this system is not sustainable. Of course, it destroys motivation. Most people, most advanced people would still continue to work, to learn, to have their personal advancement. But for the people in the middle group, those who today go to work because they have to take care of their families, they have to pay their rent and so on. For these people, the biggest danger would be to postpone this till tomorrow. And when we postpone things till tomorrow, it never comes. So our studies of long-term unemployment also show that people who get on unemployment list, the longer they stay there, the less able they are to go back to the market. They lose social network, they lose skills, they lose the most important experience that we all need, an experience of working in team, an experience of being successful. And then those people can be lost forever for the society. So in my view, UBI comes as a marginal expression of diversity and inclusion, as an idol, and it comes, if I may say so, as an Eucharist of diversity and inclusion. Bread given to everyone, bread that feeds the bodies, but which leaves the spirit even more thirsty. This is really a very dangerous Eucharist. And me coming from a socialist past, I remember very well the promise that we all had to have everything according to the needs, and we were living in a complete shortage, complete devastation, missing not just food, but missing access to knowledge, to literature, to the wealth of the world. So this world, when it starts rationing, norming, and taking care of a human being, it eventually becomes the most dangerous tyranny. And I'm really happy that I had this possibility to study this phenomena and to come to understanding how important it is to embrace imperfection and understand that what a beautiful world we are given is, how our incompleteness adds to each other, how we are magneted to each other by what we have and what we lack, by what we can share and what we can obtain from the other. But that this is never perfect. To accept that this will never be perfect, and this is only a chance for me as a human being to pursue my moral advancement, not to blame the world, not to start changing the world, but to pursue my own moral advancement. This is so important. And as this new deity presides around the globe, let me share, when I was working, as was mentioned, I was always a minority, a national minority, also a woman, mostly in a very masculine financial and political surroundings of men. But it would never come to my mind to request the right to speak just because I'm a minority. I was just standing for my cause. I was just doing what I had to do, and I succeeded despite all the limits that I had. And when I retired to write fiction, it took me longer than I expected, and when I returned to this world, to the active role, I found out world filled with this diversity and inclusion proportions, and my dignity is so frequently challenged today, because you never know whether you are invited because people need you or because they need to fill some criteria. So it's really much easier to stand as a minority for your cause than to jingle with all of these proportions, requirements, and the new culture. So, all in all, embracing the world of imperfection, incompleteness, the world which is open to our unity, world which is open to our creativity, and even liberty itself, I did not mention, but of course, liberty is in the most beautiful dialogue with incompleteness, because if the world was complete, there would be no space for us to add anything to this world. And we ourselves could not advance and become more of ourselves. We could not reach flourishing if we were perfected already. So to understand this world with all the signs of incompletion and imperfection, and to advance our own moral virtues, this is a solution which we may share with the world. And as diversity is as a magnet attracting everyone, we could share the real role that diversity plays in social interaction, on the market exchange. And it is the best protection against utopias. It redresses socialism, whatever new rope is put on it. And also it allows, referring to one of the questions to Michael, it also allows to understand better why humanity, which is ignoring this basic universal phenomena, why humanity is so drawn to socialist utopias and solution. Once we understand that, we may respond profoundly. And here is more material about our studies. I will also share some cards with the connections which you can QR code and learn more. And now, as I finish my talk, let us come back and remember the orchestra that we started with. The orchestra, which, have you seen that the inclusion of the diversity of instruments, of flutes and percussion was good for it? Did you hear the difference? Do you feel how the masterpiece of us being an orchestra, so different orchestra in this world, how it is performs the masterpiece of the Creator?